Alright, welcome to another edition of Google is Evil and such and so forth and whatnot. So I'll go to a video that somebody gave me a link to that kind of points out one of the reasons why Google is evil, because they basically just lie about everything. 1 million results, and there's really only 400, that they'll show you. So the other million results aren't really accessible, and it's not really on the internet, and it's really a terrible tragedy that we've allowed these monopoly corporations to run basic infrastructure. And yeah, sad. So we'll do that in a moment or so. I guess first we'll talk about today's video. So it's basically just an argument against the people who are lying about my position and my opinions and my philosophy and what I have and haven't said and all of that kind of crap. So sort of a waste of time in the sense that I really shouldn't have to point out stuff that's obvious to anybody who actually watches my videos. So if they're going to influence somebody, I think somebody actually has to watch them, and they have to hear all of it. And if they hear all of it, they're going to hear a lot different than what they're paraphrasing the videos to say. So the paraphrase doesn't come anywhere close to what the actual videos I've made actually say. But you would expect this from liars, okay, and that's all they've got. So one of them, the friendly antinatalist, should be called the useless antinatalist, or the meaningless antinatalist, or frankly the mean, snarky, petty, cheaty antinatalist. I mean, she just shows no integrity at all in what she says, and I don't know exactly why she's, this aggressive in arguing whatever it is she's arguing for, which is sort of a traditional, I mean, you might as well call it a pro-life position. So she's anti for some sort of specific technical reason, but it doesn't have any practical meaning. She doesn't even get the animal thing, I mean, it's not that hard to figure that one out. That the least damage, the easiest way to mitigate your damage is not to be torturing a bunch of animals for something as silly as a food preference. I mean, there's so many things out there to eat that aren't derived out of the welfare of some feeling organism. So, that's the least you could do is, mitigate against that kind of behavior. But anyway, just too silly to even, well, anyway, so this is part of this symptom of a society that just really doesn't care about details and facts, and so it's all fake news. And so these are just more people fake newsing, and if they have antinatalist in their title and they're fake newsing, that's not good for antinatalist. And so it's another reason why I don't want to be an antinatalist, in the sense that I'm antinatalist is because it's for too many wrong reasons, and it's poor logic. And the real subject is sentience on planet Earth, frankly, and that's why I invented the concept of evilism, is to keep that focus and recognize that this isn't just about human beings, and it's not about special classes of human beings, even more silly. There are an incalculable number of brains on this planet right now that are conscious, and they're in all kinds of jeopardy. And there's all kinds of probabilistic and therefore inevitable negative outcomes that they're going to be subjected to. And that's where people should be focused, is on the bad game, the end game. The game, when it's over, when it's all said and done, is train wreck. I mean, there's just a mess. There's nothing good coming out of it. There's no silver lining. There's no silver clouds. It's just all black smoke. It's just all stench and horror. Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we'll play a couple of clips out of this video. I'll jump ahead just because some subjects are so delicate and so blah blah blah, you can't even go near them without you know, hysterical you know, bullshit. Always be that you don't win in that circumstance. You can't have a win-win game. So I think I was talking about in circumstance of sexual exploitation, that often, okay, to derive your gratification, there really isn't a win-win circumstance. That so much of the to solve the problem, it just is because it's all about an individual and their specific needs, and it's very rare that it's going to be complementary. And that's why so many marriages end in divorce and all of that kind of stuff, because it isn't complementary. One person ends up being a taker, taking more than they're giving, so to speak, and it's a real another one of the good reasons to say don't make these living things, because there are going to be these circumstances where they're going to hurt each other, trying to derive their comfort and happiness, and that it's going to compromise the comfort and happiness of others. And that we're getting back to the whole competitive argument that I made in last week's video, the week before. This is a competitive game. It's not going to be win-win. If to derive our comfort, it usually means something has to lose. One guy gets to be king, everybody else is a peasant. That kind of bullshit. And this happens in our emotional need for our relationships. They just become things become tools for us to use. Okay, we use we turn everything into a kind of dildo, and it's cruel and stupid by its very nature. Or believe there is any room for doubt that they are sentient. Okay, so half the video was about this one comment about the fact that I don't have much appreciation for the conscious character of immature humans, 3 years or under. That they're not really doing consciousness in a big way. They're doing it in some other kind of way. And it's not to say that they aren't alive, or they're made out of sticks, that they're plastic, that they're a doll. They're not any of those things. I'm not saying you pay no attention to their welfare. I'm just saying it is different than the welfare of a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 15-year-old. And just a fact. And there's a difference qualitatively in what's happening inside their brains. Okay, isn't living in the real world yet. Yeah, see, and then you can dissect the whole thing into this, the fact that it all fits in the evolution blueprint. And so, there are certain logical steps you can understand in terms of trying to model it. You can understand there's a certain logic to the function, and there's not going to be, nature doesn't make a lot of fifth wheels. Okay, it doesn't make a lot of features that don't have a function or don't have a productive outcome for the individual or for the organism. And so most of the features created, you can have vestigial, you can have artifact features, but you're usually not going to get a new feature that has no value, that doesn't produce product, and that there's no reason for us to overreact. Isn't productive. And so it can look like an action, but it's really not an action. And you can go back to the whole fact that our brain is controlling other mechanisms that are very reflexive. So when you have a feeling, you're really just setting your reflexes up to be on alert. That kind of thing. You're making yourself more sensitive by focusing your attention. I mean, your knees aren't even part of your body most of the time, right? It's not until you concentrate on them that you say, oh yeah, I can feel them. But it's your brain has to focus for it to register as a conscious reality. So much of what we're conscious of depends on what we're focusing on, and we can't focus on the world we exist in until we're of a certain age to be able to understand that world. And so there's no point in having a bunch of experiences when you can't learn anything from them. Anyway, it's a complex argument, and obviously some people just don't want to deal with the fact that it's more complicated than they wish to make it. Alright, well, I'll go find the other thing I wanted to throw in there, and we'll call it a video. Alright, this is a video called Where Did the Rest of the Internet Go? And it's Truth Stream something or other. I don't really care for that. And it's commercials and whatnot. So it's like they made it into a documentary, and the documentary basically repeats the same thing over and over. But it's one of these things where, you know, it's produced with some sort of quality. They have images, they do music, blah blah blah, and, you know, pleasant voiced woman talks. I guess I could.
And she was on her 1787.
Okay, so whatever, blah blah blah. And so it's all this kind of stuff, and the basic one truth that it talks about is just the fact that Google is a shitty search engine. I mean, frankly, it's telling you there's a million results, and you really can't get more than a few hundred, and that's all you're going to get. And that the old internet, the fact was, it was a whole different experience, and it's too bad we don't have video of people using the old internet, but you know, it's a whole different thing. You could find individual images, you could find all kinds of different things on the internet, and you could certainly find the obscure internet, the unpopular internet, and now you're stuck with the same sources. You'll find, you know, of the 400 results, there'll be 5 redundancies of different pages within the same place, like Britannica or NASA, or the same website will keep gurgitating more and more references from that one site. So out of the 400, you're not even getting 400. You know, you're getting 30, you know, sources, and that's it. And you really, the internet is a much smaller place now, and that's an obscenity when you consider there's so many billions of websites, and most of them are just inaccessible. There's no way to get to them using a search engine, and that's exactly what search engines are supposed to be for, and they're not. And it's because we gave search to a marketing company that has a huge incentive to only show you web pages that has its ads on it. I mean, it has a huge, gigantic financial advantage to showing you websites where the person who's made the website has paid Google, okay, to place ads on its pages. So Google makes money and they make money. It's a huge, gigantic counter incentive. It's an incentive against the public interest. And yeah, I mean, it's too bad so few people give a shit, because it really is something that should be regulated. It should be part of our, this should be part of our guaranteed infrastructure, living in a country that believes in free speech, you know, and some sort of public civilization. It's just a necessary feature that this part of the internet be protected from capitalist monopoly control. And it's as essential as public libraries, where, I mean, you know, frankly, you know, libraries are kind of an essential to civilization, in the sense that you need some place, some source. Well, that was a little too silly. You have to have reservoirs of this information, and it has to have, you know, you have to have reasonable access. You can't, you know, you shouldn't be forced to drive to Iowa to read a book. And essentially, you have to go through an awful lot of work to find obscure content on the internet, and it shouldn't be that way. Relevant, obscure content. Yeah. So anyway, we'll call that a video, and such, and so forth and whatnot. Yeah, that's enough. So that's this week. You know, inmendham this week. Whatever. So yeah. So whatever. till next week. Yeah, till next time. I'll try to make some videos during the week. We'll see how it goes. And such and so forth and whatnot. Same old bullshit. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So, till the next time. Yeah, that's enough.